Hey, hey, hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. Nothing like a secret vasectomy to really throw everyone under the bus. Today on rSpace, who's your daddy? So I recently discovered that my wife, Devon, was having an affair with my best friend, Jeff. And I found this out because she's pregnant. You might ask yourself, OP, but if she's pregnant, how do you know? Well, I got a vasectomy in my previous marriage. So I know my wife has been screwing around on me because there's no way she can get pregnant from me. And some of you might be thinking, OP, you can still get pregnant with a vasectomy. Don't come at me with that. There's a less than 1% chance that I got her pregnant. And we've taken tests since then to prove that it's not mine. So there. Some context. So my best friend, Jeff, recently went through a divorce earlier this year. And I grew up with this guy since we were in grade school. I mean, we're basically brothers. We were both the best man at each other's weddings. We went to college together and took the same courses. We ended up in the police force together and stationed at the same place. You get it. So I first got married when I was 20, and my ex-wife, Trish, and I were high school sweethearts. I was the small-town hockey star who everyone knew was going somewhere. She was the smart, cute, funny pastor's daughter who everyone loved. Anyways, we ended up having our daughter when we were 21 and my son when we were 24. We had a miscarriage in between the two. After my son, my ex-wife and I decided we didn't want any more children, so we decided that I should get a vasectomy. So without telling one, I didn't feel like I had to announce it to the world, I went for a simple lunch surgery and went back to work, and no one was the wiser. My ex-wife and I ended up drifting apart and we separated amicably. It's not that we didn't love each other, we did, but the love just changed. She had started up this home organization business after the kids were old enough to be a bit more independent, and she got really successful at that and wanted to make the brand bigger. So she put in a lot of time with that, and I was still really passionate about what I was doing, and I was getting deployed all over Canada to teach and whatnot. So we both just kind of drifted apart, but we still fully supported each other and the lives we were both leading. My ex-wife and I are still really great friends, and we see each other constantly, and all of us have even shared holidays together. Anyways, Devon and Trish were on good terms, and they even went out and did things without me too. They had a great relationship. So then this brings me to Jeff and his wife. We all spent a lot of time together, and we did a Friendsmas thing and a Friendsgiving every year. We all spent a lot of time camping together. We did a lot together. And so when he said that he was getting a divorce from his wife Amy, it sort of hit the friend group hard. And we tried our best to support them in whatever way they needed. However, Amy really gave it to Jeff hard and was saying that she was going to take the kids to Ontario to be with her parents, who still live there. So naturally, Jeff was devastated on hearing this, and he tried his best to keep his kids here. But alas, she ended up moving there and did, in fact, take the kids with her. So it was rough to see him go through, and it was hard to see him being treated like that and getting his kids taken away. So in this time, he really leaned on us, and because they had to sell the house, we let Jeff stay with us for a little bit until he landed on his feet again. Well, a little bit turned into a little bit longer than we would have liked. Then Devon sort of had this idea that we could renovate the garage and turn it into a suite. So I complied, and Jeff was really gracious about it and helped out and spent a lot of time making it his own. Whatever, it was a bit of an annoyance, but I wanted to help in any way that I could, and it was better than him staying in our house. At least he was out of the house and in his own space, so that Devon and I could have proper alone time without worrying if Jeff was going to hear, if you catch my drift. Okay, so now Devon. Devon worked as a dispatch agent for a little bit, and that's how we met. And the job is actually really stressful, so she managed to stick it out for 2 years, and now she works as a hairstylist and loves it. Devon and I met a few months after the divorce with Trish was finalized. We hit it off really well. She's actually 8 years older than I am. She said that she didn't want any kids and she was really fun. Like really fun and wild. We had our motorcycles and went on hunting trips. She was like one of the guys, but like a chick. And a chick that wanted to get down and dirty with you. That's a horrible explanation, but you get it. She was fun. She was everything that I needed at the time. We had the same interests and we had a lot of the same hobbies. And because she had mentioned that she didn't want any kids, I thought, wow, great. I don't have to worry about telling her that I had a vasectomy. So the topic never came up. Yes, I know, I'm a horrible person. I never told her that I had a vasectomy. But because the topic of kids never really came up, that was sort of it. She obviously was the best stepmom to my kids, and she had always said that that was enough. She wasn't even the marrying type until I just felt like, yeah, I want to spend the rest of my life with this woman, and it just feels right. It's not like she was against marriage or anything, but she just didn't expect it, you know? She didn't need to get married. She was just so chill that way, and I loved that about her. So we ended up having this small, intimate backyard wedding and a fire with a barbecue, and it was perfect. It was perfect for us, and all we needed. So yeah, shortly after we got married, Jeff went through his divorce. He was staying with us, blah blah. Now we worked together, but we weren't on the same team. So he had different shifts than I did. And Devin had a really lax schedule too. So a lot of times, Devin and Jeff were at home together alone. And at first, I thought it was just Devin being helpful and a good friend. But after a while, it definitely started getting weird. I'd text her during the day and ask her how her day was going, and she'd say, "Oh, Jeff and I are just out for lunch, and Jeff and I are just out running errands." And I'm like, okay, weird. But then they were going to the movies together, and then they'd go to concerts together. And then when I was home, I saw little things that rubbed me the wrong way. Like he'd touch her arm when she was talking to him. She'd touch his bicep when he made her laugh. She'd dish him up food, and she wouldn't dish me up food. And then she'd constantly bring him up like, "Oh, Jeff told me about this," or "Jeff said the funniest thing." And I was like, okay, red flag. Definitely raised my suspicions. Then even though he was literally up in the garage suite, they'd text into the wee hours of the morning, and she'd be giggling and texting him. And there I am, laying next to her in bed, and honestly, I'm trying to start something up. Trying to give her a massage or something, get in the mood, and she wouldn't be interested. She'd just keep texting him. So I'd just roll over and just fall asleep, and she'd be texting him. Then there would be little gifts here and there. He got her like bath stuff for the bathtub, and in one gift set there was massage oil. After a week, I noticed that the bottle had been opened and used, but I didn't use it on her. At first I chalked it up to maybe she used it for lotion or something. But the thing is, this oil has a distinct smell, and I remember smelling it on Jeff a few times, but I never said anything. I was just sort of collecting all this evidence and making mental notes. Then one day, we're laying in bed and late at night, and she turns to me and she's like, "I want a baby." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "I think we should have a baby." And I'm like, "We agreed not to." And she's like, "I don't know, I've been thinking, and I think we should just have a baby before we're both too old." And I'm like, "Devin, I don't know." And she's like, "What do you mean you don't know?" And I'm like, "Well, a baby is a lot. It takes a lot of time and energy." And then she got mad at me, and she's like, "Don't treat me like your old child." And then I said that I thought we went over this before. And she's like, "We never really did." And I'm like, "It was just an unspoken thing. And I feel like you said that you were okay without kids and were good with being a stepmom." And she's like, "So I'm not allowed to change my mind? You won't let me be a mom?" And I'm like, whoa, that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I think we ought to talk more about this, and maybe now isn't the best time. And she's like, "Well, what would make it a good time? When will you want to talk about it?" And I'm like, "We can sleep on it and talk about it tomorrow and make time for this tomorrow." And she got pissed and left the room. And yeah, I didn't have the heart in that moment to tell her I had a vasectomy and it would be physically impossible for me to give her a child unless I went and got it reversed. And even then, it's not 100%. And then something was just sketchy about the whole conversation anyways. I thought it was weird that now, all of a sudden, she wanted a baby. She had never, ever shown interest in anything like this before. My alarms are going off. I'm pretty sure I know what happened, but I need to play along a little bit here. The next day, I apologize and I'm like, "Yes, I'm game. Let's make a baby." She literally jumps for joy, and we try like 5 times that day. Then about a week later, she hands me this box, and in this box is a positive pregnancy test. I could have cried. I was stunned. I knew it couldn't have been mine. And I'm not an expert or anything, but you can find out a week after? I don't think it works that way. Anyways, let me know if I'm wrong here. But the point is, I had a hunch and I knew the baby wasn't mine. I knew it must have been Jeff's. So I started watching them closer. Both Devin and I had agreed not to tell anybody that we were pregnant right away. But when I was watching Devin and Jeff interact, I caught him grazing her belly at the side of my eye. I pretended like I didn't see it, but he for sure touched her belly in a lovingly way. There it was. A few weeks after that, she tells me she's going to her doctor's for the first little exam to see how far along she was, and that Jeff was going to drive her because he had to do some running around in the area anyways. And I was like, no need. I'm taking time off because I want to be there. And she sort of smiled and was like, "You don't have to do that." And I was like, "I'm the father. I want to be there." And I kind of smiled and she weakly grinned and I was like, "Great, of course you do." So yeah, we ended up going to the appointment and the doctor does her thing with her and asks her when she thinks she conceived. She gives her the date that we did the old deed. There's an ultrasound. And then the doctor comes back and says that she's 12 weeks. And I'm like, "How is that possible?" And I look at her and she's like, "Doc, is this for real?" And she's acting all shocked and everything. And the doc is like, "Yeah, seems like you have a miracle." And I was like, whoa. And I pretend to be totally ecstatic to not tip her off that I knew anything. I shouldn't. Then we go home, and when we're home, I'm still pretending. And she's like, oh, it was meant to be. What a miracle. I'm so excited. We end up having sex again that night, and I turned over and fell asleep. I had the next day off, but I knew she had to get up early because she had a wedding to do. I knew that was my chance to pack her crap and lock Jeff out of the suite. I knew Jeff also had to get up and go to work. So I did just that. I packed all of her garbage, I stockpiled it in our trailer, and I parked it on the street. I had a spare key to Jeff's suite, so I went in there, packed up his stuff too, and threw it into the same trailer. Then I put this big old lock on it so that he wouldn't get in. So Devin comes home first and sees the trailer parked there. I had changed the locks on the doors and the password to the garage so she couldn't get in. She's standing there and she's banging on the front door. I talk to her through our doorbell camera and I tell her that we're done and I know the baby isn't mine. She's saying that I'm out of my absolute mind and calling me crazy, and she's bawling and making a big scene, and I can see our neighbors looking out there and doors and windows. And I'm like, this baby isn't mine. It's Jeff's. And she's like, don't be insane. Why would it be Jeff's? And I'm like, you tell me. And she's like, how could this baby not be yours? And I'm like, there's a less than 1% chance, and I know that because I have a vasectomy. And she literally dropped her purse and her bags onto the ground. She stood there in disbelief. And she's like, let me explain. And she starts trying to babble on. And I'm like, save it. I know it's not mine. And I'm like, we're done. It's over. I was nice enough to pack the trailer for you. Get out of here. And then she calls someone, and I'm guessing it's Jeff, because then he shows up in a matter of minutes in his patrol car. He sees what's happening, and he sees the lock on the garage suite. He tells me that I'm losing my mind and that the kid couldn't possibly be his. I'm like, I'll believe it when I see a paternity test. Edit. Okay, people have been asking how she never knew how she didn't suspect not getting pregnant before. Well, she was on birth control pills for PCOS, or so she told me. Supposedly she was in the process of swapping pill brands and just so happened to get pregnant with Jeff's baby. Bad timing. Not only that, but she had this thing against, well, man juice, to put it lightly. She was absolutely repulsed by it. She refused that I ever finished in her, and she rarely ever pleased me in other ways because the sight of it disgusted her. I won't go into details, but yeah. Update. So, getting divorced. Again, another failed marriage. Feels like absolute dump, but what can you do? In the midst of the divorce, Devin ended up getting a paternity test, and it only confirmed what I had believed. The baby is in fact Jeff's. And I guess he knew all along and was willing to play along and thought that he could just live in the garage suite forever and raise his baby as Uncle Jeff from afar. A buddy of mine did me a huge favor and got Jeff transferred to a small northern town, literally in BFE. Devin, I guess, followed him up there. She was just trying to pretend that I impregnated her so that I didn't catch on to the affair she was having with Jeff. But turns out my little secret snip saved me from raising a kid that wasn't my own. By the time she realized she was pregnant, though, it was a bit late. Trish and I talk every day. She checks in on me, and she's being an absolute sweetheart. I'm spending a lot of time with my kids and just trying to get by and be the best dad that I can be. Ah, the classic tale of love, betrayal, and a vasectomy that became the ultimate truth serum. Betrayal, the ultimate sucker punch from life's playbook, delivered by none other than a lifelong friend turned traitor. You see, when you've known someone since you were knee-high to a grasshopper, you tend to think they're as solid as the ground beneath your feet. But then they go and shatter that illusion with the finesse of a wrecking ball through a glass house in the form of impregnating your wife. But here's the thing about betrayal. It's a harsh teacher. But it's also a wake-up call. There you were, living your life, thinking you had it all figured out with Devin by your side. But Devin and Jeff were busy playing house behind your back. Whispered conversations, secret rendezvous, the whole shebang. Well, OP, looks like you've collected another marriage certificate for the failed relationships scrapbook. Hey, at least you're racking up experience points for the game of love, right? What are your thoughts? Share them with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.